Alrighty, guys, I feel like I deserve a couple pats on the back for almost making it through an entire horror show. Something that I never thought I would ever do, because I generally dislike horror pretty universally. That being said, there are some exceptions, and the It franchise has surprisingly been one of those exceptions. And today, we're here to talk about, in spoilery detail, episode 6 of the HBO MAX series, It Welcome to Derry. This is going to be a full spoiler discussion, so if you have not seen episode 6 of It Welcome to Derry, no worries, just make sure to save this segment, save the podcast, and save this video wherever you are watching for later, and come back once you have seen it. Let's dive right in. I've said this before in numerous occasions and on the other spoiler discussions for It Welcome to Derry, I like the It franchise. I think that it is one of those horror franchises where I can overlook the horror because, I don't like to be jump scared. I don't like gory things. Generally, I don't like to, see creepy images. But story, right? Story for me is always important in terms of movies and narrative. And I think that the It franchise has interesting stories and interesting characters to show us. And so for me, this has been a franchise that sort of transcended the, I don't like it because it's a horror movie, because I'm like, well, but it has interesting things to say, and it's been a really fun and interesting and engaging watch. And so I was excited for It Welcome to Derry, but not to belabor the point, it's been a little bit of a rocky road thus far. I have not been super enthralled with the show. I haven't been disliking it outright either, but it just hasn't been captivating me in a way that I had wanted. That being said, last week's episode 5, was to me by far and away the best episode of the entire series. It brought a lot of these storylines that had felt very disparate and disconnected together. It had ratcheted up the stakes. It had made this threat of whatever it was, Pennywise, even more tangible, because before it had been kind of just floating around and scaring people here and there. It made the threat real. And I'm not just talking about seeing the actual clown. Like, that was well and good. But I'm talking more just about having the threat become something that is actually, for lack of a better term, threatening, and have it be something that actually makes fear be real, right? I think the scenes where Leroy has to shoot his partner when he thinks that it's a manifestation of Pennywise, like those kinds of things are what make the tension and what make the stakes and what make this show, it's the strengths of the show, right? That's what Pennywise can do to you. So I was excited for episode 6 because I was like, okay, let's see how we can build from that momentum. Episode 6 is the most random thing, in my opinion. It's one of the most random episodes of this series thus far. Again, I don't inherently dislike anything I'm seeing necessarily, obviously aside from the personally, subjectively just crazy and gross horror stuff that's going on. I don't love that, but that's just me. I'm not going to like that at any point in any movie, probably, or any show. This episode was so random, though, because, again, this show has had so much momentum from the last episode, and I'm not saying, just to be abundantly clear, I'm not saying that, okay, after episode 5, I need to see Pennywise in 80% of the scenes after that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, okay, you've established that these characters are now, what the characters are now facing, right? And I'm not opposed to a good get knocked on your butts kind of episode, which is basically what episode 6 was, of, okay, you faced the threat and you were overmatched and now you have to regroup. I get the point of the episode, right? But the collections of scenes that were going on felt, again, just one of my problems with the show. It felt so disparate, and the storylines just felt so out of place with one another. And all these different things that are going on, I get the characters have to fight. Some of the fights felt very manufactured, which I think could have played to the show's strengths of, oh, it's Pennywise drawing these kids apart, except it really didn't feel that way at all. And the whole subplot of that, I don't know what, the counselor or whoever she is, being the daughter of the clown, I guess, that inspires Pennywise, that whole sequence towards the end just really baffled me, because it could have been an interesting origin story-ish for why Pennywise chooses the clown, and I'm sure we're going to get some more backstory on that. But, I mean, as I sat back and kind of thought about what I just saw, none of it felt very salient to what was going on at all. It just felt like another random thing to drop onto the other collection of random things. I think that these stories and these characters, these storylines and these characters are interesting in themselves, but they feel so disconnected from one another that it makes it hard to care, for me personally, right? I think another example of this, and I think probably the most egregious example of this in my eyes, is Halloran, that character Halloran. I think that I'm not opposed to a character having mystical powers. I'm not opposed at all to having a character that can kind of see things and is being used by Pennywise to do crazy things. Not at all. It's that kind of universe, and I'm bought into that kind of universe, right? Totally fair. But this character has been the most random character thus far in the show. There have only been hints here and there of what his potential is and what his backstory is. But really, at the end of the day, he just kind of pops in and out, does something weird, and then just disappears again. And it's just starting to bother me now, more and more as the show continues on. He, to me, epitomizes a lot of what I just am not understanding about this show. It's just random things happen, and random characters do random things, and then they just kind of disappear for a little bit. Meanwhile, Pennywise is just in the sewers, hanging out, comes up to the surface sometimes. There's this knife, that scares him, apparently, and that's it. That's about all that happens in these episodes that I dislike. Last episode, again, I really liked because now we're starting to get somewhere. Now we're starting to confront the stakes. This episode was a return to random. Everything felt disparate. Everything felt disconnected. And again, I know that storylines are literally connecting. I know that characters are literally talking to one another. But I don't feel that sense of forward momentum. And I understand it. And not every episode has to be action-packed. I hope that that's clear by what I'm saying. But rather, I'm hoping that this show can give me more of a sense of what the end game is. And that really, to me, and I think it's something where we have to acknowledge this with prequels, and especially prequels like this, where you have characters who are from the original franchise returning, Pennywise, right? We have to acknowledge this with prequels. Prequels are hard, because the problem with prequels, if you know what's going on, it is really hard to manufacture stakes when you know what the end game is. I'm not saying that prequels can't have stakes, right? Because if you have characters that you don't know what's going to happen to them or why they're doing what they're doing, you can have really interesting storylines. You can have prequels set in eras where you don't know literally what's going to happen. You may know way in the future what's going to happen, but you don't know the specifics of what's going to happen. In this case, though, with Pennywise the Clown, we know how he dies, allegedly, in It Chapter 2. We know what he's going to do. He's just going to come back and torment. I don't think there's anything new that can really come out of this. So really, if the point of this show, right, and I'm being cynical, maybe, but if the point of this show is to show the origins of Pennywise, then I don't think this show is doing a particularly good job of it. I think that it's just being surrounded by a lot of, not fluff, I don't want to say fluff, but it's not being conveyed in the clearest manner. And I just think that if that's what the point of the show is, then I don't know if it's doing such a great job. If the point of the show is not that, though, I would really like to hear what you guys think the main purpose and objective of the show is. Because if this show is also about hunting down Pennywise, then guess what? We know the answer. They're not going to succeed, right? So I don't quite understand what the show is going for at this point. I thought last week I got a better sense of it, of, okay, this is a show that's going to both, it's going to kind of expand, and talk about Derry, but also just be a hunt for Pennywise show. And if that's the case, then we need more episodes like episode 5. But if we don't get more episodes like episode 5, then I'm just kind of left with this. Then I don't understand what is this show going for. So I'm a little frustrated because I just feel like this show had been getting somewhere, and now I just don't quite understand what's going on. So anyways, guys, what did you think of It Chapter 3? Welcome to Derry, episode 6, because perhaps you guys enjoyed it more than I did, in which case, it's amazing. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts if you did. So if you guys enjoyed It Welcome to Derry episode 6, or even if you guys didn't enjoy It Welcome to Derry episode 6 like me, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments down below.